In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on February 11, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. New York Knicks versus Philadelphia 76ers. The Philadelphia 76ers host the New York Knicks at Xfinity Mobile Arena on Wednesday night. It is a classic schedule spot where the home team has the fresher legs and the visiting team has more miles on the odometer. The Knicks come in having just beaten the Celtics, then taking a loss to the Pacers, with the Pistons waiting for them after this one. They have still won 9 of their last 11 games, which tells you their overall form has been strong even if the last result stung a bit. The 76ers, on the other hand, beat the Suns, then slipped against the Trail Blazers, and they get the Hawks next on the calendar. They have taken 14 of their last 23, not exactly scorching earth, but steady enough to feel like they are in a decent rhythm. The injury report shapes a lot of the early conversation. The 76ers could be shorthanded again, with Joel Embiid, Dominic Barlow, and Quentin Grimes all listed as questionable. The Knicks have already ruled out OG Anunoby, Miles McBride, and Mitchell Robinson once more, so their rotation is getting used to playing without them whether they like it or not. Honestly, that kind of consistency in who is missing can sometimes be easier to manage than constant day-to-day questionable tags. The recent head-to-head results lean toward New York. The Knicks have taken 7 of the last 10 meetings against the 76ers, so grabbing the free bucket has an obvious appeal to anyone who likes historical trends. That trend, though, comes with a big caveat this time. The Knicks just lost to the Pacers last night, got knocked to the canvas a bit, and now have to stand up and walk straight into Philly on short rest. That is not exactly a cushy setup, especially when you look at the minutes. Hart, Bridges, and Brunson all topped 40 minutes last night, which is the kind of workload you feel in your legs in the fourth quarter, even if everyone says they are fine. The 76ers are playing reasonably solid basketball and have quietly been good against the number, sitting at a profitable 29 to 22-2 against the spread this season. That kind of record is not an accident. It usually points to the market being a touch slow to adjust to how often they compete. Home court, extra rest, and a bit less wear and tear going into this matchup tilt things toward Philly even if the injury questions create some nerves. Here is the thing, when one team drags in after a long night and the other is waiting at home, the small edges in energy, focus, and execution often show up possession by possession. So even with the Knicks playing well overall, the spot itself quietly leans toward the 76ers being more likely to cover. As our first pick for this matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The New York Knicks are averaging 117.4 points on 47% shooting and allowing 111.8 points on 45.9% shooting. They are knocking down 37.8% of their threes and hitting 79% at the free throw line, which keeps their offense from stalling even on nights when the mid-range looks a bit ugly. They are allowing 35.8% shooting from deep and pulling in 46.2 rebounds per game, so they often control the glass and finish possessions without giving up too many second chances. That combination usually supports a healthy score, but it can also slow games down a bit when they dominate the rebounding and squeeze extra possessions out of their opponents. Philadelphia brings a slightly different scoring balance. The Philadelphia 76ers are averaging 116.8 points on 46% shooting and allowing 115.3 points on 46.9% shooting. They are shooting 36% from 3 and 81.4% from the line, which gives them a steady stream of points even when the offense is not flying up and down the floor. They allow 35.4% from deep and grab 43.8 rebounds per game, which is solid but not overwhelming on the boards. What that usually means is that their games can drift into tighter, more controlled stretches where both teams trade free throws, half-court sets, and longer trips rather than non-stop transition. Fatigue and rotation questions tend to matter for the total more than people admit. If the Knicks are coming off a night where key players like Hart, Bridges, and Brunson had to log heavy minutes, the natural tendency is to slow things down a touch, pick spots, and avoid a full track meet. If the 76ers are managing potential absences or limited minutes for key pieces, that also nudges the offense toward more deliberate possessions and fewer wild runs. Let me explain. When both sides are dealing with either tired legs or uncertain rotations, the defense can actually benefit because players lean on structure rather than improvisation. That usually trims a few points off what the raw offensive numbers might suggest. So with both teams capable of scoring, but also set up in a spot where pace and legs could keep things slightly more controlled, the overall scoring environment tilts toward a lower tally than the stats alone would hint at. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Indiana Pacers versus Brooklyn Nets. The Indiana Pacers head into Barclays Center on Wednesday night to take on the Brooklyn Nets in a matchup of two teams that have been spinning their wheels more than they would like lately. The Pacers are coming off a loss to the Raptors followed by a big overtime win against the Knicks, with the Wizards waiting for them next, and they have still dropped 8 of their last 12 games, which tells you how rocky this stretch has been. The Nets, on their side, just picked up wins over the Wizards and the Bulls, and they see the Cavs next. But those two victories sit on top of a run where they have lost 15 of their last 19, so any talk of real momentum has to be taken with a grain of salt. Injuries keep things messy on both benches. Brooklyn is still without Michael Porter Jr., even though they should finally get Noah Clowney back on the floor, which at least helps their rotation a little. Indiana is still missing Johnny Furphy, Ivica Zubac, Jarris Walker, and Obi Toppin, so the front court and depth pieces are thin, and that kind of patchwork lineup shows up especially on the road. The Pacers needed that thrilling overtime win over the Knicks just to stop the bleeding, and now they have to turn right around with 0 days of rest and go again in another city. That is a tough ask for any group, especially one that has been banged up and has not exactly been a force away from home this season. Even with all of that working against Indiana, the idea of the Nets sitting as favorites is still wild. The line simply does not pass the smell test. Brooklyn is 22 games under a .500 record, and that number weighs heavily when you are trying to justify laying points. This is only the 4th time all season that the Nets have been favored at all, and just the 8th time since April 2024, which tells you how rarely the market has trusted them. When a team almost never shows up on the board as a favorite, seeing them suddenly asked to win by a margin raises every red flag in sight. You would not feel great trusting either side with big stakes right now despite those recent wins, but it is even harder to believe the Nets can be counted on to control this game from wire to wire. Their offense dries up for long stretches, and if Porter Jr. sits again, the scoring ceiling drops another notch, which makes the idea of them winning by a comfortable number feel shaky at best. The Pacers might be tired and short-handed, but they still have enough punch to keep this close against a team that has not earned this kind of respect. Taking the points with Indiana simply lines up better with everything these two teams have shown for months. As our first pick for this matchup, the Indiana Pacers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Indiana Pacers are averaging 110.6 points on 44.7% shooting and allowing 118.5 points on 48.4% shooting, which shows an offense that can stall and a defense that gets stretched, but not always in high-paced track meets. From the perimeter, they are hitting 34.5% of their threes and 76.8% of their free throws, solid but not exactly explosive numbers, especially when some of their key rotation pieces are out. They are allowing 34.5% shooting from deep and pulling down 42.7 rebounds per game, so they give up looks but also finish possessions at a decent rate, which can quietly pull scoring down a bit over 4 quarters. Brooklyn is in a similar lane offensively, maybe even more limited. The Nets are averaging 107.1 points on 44.3% shooting and allowing 114.9 points on 49.4% shooting, and that scoring average is on the low side for a modern offense. They shoot 34.1% from 3 and 78.1% at the free throw line, so they are competent but rarely overwhelming in anyone's scoring area. On the other end, they allow 37.9% shooting from deep and grab 40.4 rebounds per game, which shows a defense that gives up clean looks but also a team that does not dominate the glass enough to create big extra possession swings. When you fold the context back in, the picture gets clearer. The Pacers are on the second leg of a back-to-back after an emotional overtime win, which often drags on legs and jump shots as the game wears on. The Nets are already a low-scoring group on average, and if Porter Jr. remains sidelined, they lose one more piece who can help them find easy points when the offense bogs down. Both teams sit in that middle ground where they can score, but not effortlessly, and the shooting percentages support the idea of more empty trips than you would see in a true high-octane matchup. All of that points toward a contest where neither side consistently lights up the scoreboard and where fatigue, injuries, and streaky shooting keep the total from climbing too high. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Miami Heat versus New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans, in front of their home crowd, are giving up a bit of ground on the spread to a Miami Heat team that's proven itself to be the more reliable unit. And honestly, that's a tough ask when you look at how these teams are built. Miami's been cruising along with a solid defense and a structured offense that doesn't need to rely on flashy moments to win games. Sure, they're without a couple of key players, but the depth has always been there, and they've already handled the Pelicans once earlier this season. New Orleans, on the other hand, continues to play with a volatile mix of offense and defense that keeps them inconsistent. The one thing we know for sure, they can let a lead slip quickly. With that said, Miami's ability to grind out wins with a tough defensive mindset makes it hard to bet against them, even on the road. Their resilience, even without Harrow and Powell, gives them a decent shot to cover here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Miami Heat to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. There's this narrative floating around that the Pelicans' pace might lead us to a high-scoring affair, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Sure, New Orleans has a tendency to let games get out of hand, but their offensive rhythm hasn't been smooth enough to turn this into a shootout. We're not exactly talking about the Warriors here. They're a team that can't get consistent from deep, and that's a huge factor when we're thinking about a high-scoring game. Miami's game plan, particularly with their injury list, isn't about fast breaks or high-paced shooting. Instead, they lean on their defense and grab those offensive boards to set up more methodical plays. That might slow things down and, if anything, drag the score into a quieter finish. The Pelicans have struggled to hit those big shots that push totals up, and the Heat's defense is there to clamp down on any potential runs. It feels like we're headed for something lower scoring than people expect, even if there's a fast start. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Portland Trail Blazers versus Minnesota Timberwolves. The Portland Trail Blazers head to Minnesota to face the Timberwolves on Wednesday at the Target Center in another regular season NBA spot that feels a bit trickier than it looks at first glance. The Trail Blazers are coming off wins over the Grizzlies and the 76ers, and they have the Jazz on deck, even though they have still dropped 6 of their last 9 overall. The Timberwolves just took a loss to the Clippers, then bounced back with a strong performance against the Hawks, and they see the Mavs next on the schedule after this one. They have taken 6 wins in their last 9 games, so the recent trend leans their way on the surface. The Trail Blazers are still without Matisse Thybulle, Chris Murray, Shaedon Sharpe, and Damian Lillard, while the Timberwolves remain without Terrence Shannon Jr., so neither team is exactly at full strength, even if Minnesota looks closer to normal. Portland, though, is walking into this contest with real confidence after smashing the 76ers for what became their 3rd straight victory on Monday, and that sort of mini-run can give a young roster some extra swagger. Minnesota has also won 5 of its last 8 games and is coming in off a dominant showing against the Hawks, so the home side has good vibes too, even if their overall body of work can be a bit frustrating to trust. They were always going to open as the home favorite against a banged-up Portland group, and that part makes sense. But Portland has quietly been better than people expect and has been hanging around in spots where many thought they would fold. The Trail Blazers feel like the annoying underdog that will not go away, and they look more than capable of making life uncomfortable here, even if the straight-up upset still feels like a reach for most. Minnesota being favored is not really the issue, it is how they handle that role, and that is where the concern keeps creeping back in. The Timberwolves tend to play with their food a bit, and that habit shows up in their against-the-spread record, a shaky 24-31 mark that tells you they often win, but do not always reward those backing them. They have had recent bad losses against the Clippers, Pelicans, and Grizzlies, results that linger in the back of your mind when you see them laying a bigger number again. Trusting this team as a big favorite is tough, especially when late-game focus can wobble. Portland, on the other hand, is a young and scrappy group that has been getting healthier overall and has quietly been a profitable team against the spread with a solid 29-25 record. They have covered in 10-5 of their last 15 when catching at least 5 points as an underdog, which shows they have consistently hung around in similar roles. That profile fits this matchup pretty cleanly, with the underdog staying close enough often enough to keep bettors interested. Minnesota still projects as the more likely team to leave with the win, but Portland has enough energy, confidence, and recent form to keep this thing tight and drag it right down to the wire. As our first pick for this matchup, the Portland Trail Blazers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The scoring profile for this game tells a slightly different story when you look at the numbers on both sides and think about how the pace might settle. The Portland Trail Blazers are averaging 115.3 points on 44.8% shooting and allowing 118.1 points on 47.3% shooting. They are hitting 33.6% from three-point range and 77.1% at the free throw line, while giving up 35.8% shooting from beyond the arc and pulling down 45.7 rebounds per game. The Minnesota Timberwolves are averaging 119.5 points on 48.1% shooting and allowing 114.8 points on 46.3% shooting. They are knocking down 37.6% of their threes and 74.8% of their free throws, while allowing 35.7% shooting from deep and grabbing 45 rebounds per game. Those numbers suggest two offenses that can put the ball in the basket, but they also show defenses that are not completely falling apart, especially on the perimeter where both sides keep three-point percentages relatively controlled. With both teams capable of slowing things down in stretches and with some key pieces still out, the scoring environment does not have to turn into a full track meet, even if the raw averages look high. There is room for a game that feels competitive without every possession turning into a quick shot and a run out the other way. Putting all of that together, the overall scoring expectation leans a bit lower than the surface-level averages might hint, especially if the game tightens in the second half and possessions get more deliberate. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Clippers versus Houston Rockets. The Los Angeles Clippers visit the Houston Rockets on Wednesday, with the matchup set at the Toyota Center in a spot where both teams bring strong recent form into the conversation. The schedule is not doing the Clippers many favors, and that adds a layer of uncertainty before the ball even goes up. The Clippers just beat the Timberwolves, then turned around and lost to these same Rockets, and they have the Nuggets waiting after this one, which makes this stretch feel like a bit of a gauntlet. They have still won 19 of their last 26 games, so the long view remains positive, but it has not been flawless. Houston has its own rhythm working, coming off wins over the Thunder and those Clippers, with the Hornets next on their slate. They have grabbed 11 wins in their last 16 outings, which is the kind of run that breeds confidence, especially at home in a building where the crowd tends to feed into their energy. The Clippers are still missing Bradley Beal and Darius Garland, and that keeps their backcourt rotation thinner than ideal over a stretch with little rest. The Rockets have again ruled out Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams, so their guard play and interior depth are also affected, even though they have already shown they can function within that reality. The emotional angle is pretty straightforward, because the Clippers should be hungry for payback after dropping the last meeting, and that kind of spot usually brings a sharp early response. Here is the thing, that edge can fade quickly if their main star does not get consistent help, and the recent pattern has hinted at that problem whenever the supporting cast goes quiet. If Leonard does not get more reliable production from his teammates, especially on the second night of a back-to-back, the Clippers can fall into stretches where the offense looks heavy and predictable. In a road setting where the legs may not be fully fresh, that can really show up late in games, and it makes covering a number as a favorite or near-pick style side tougher than simply winning. Houston, on the other hand, is playing with real momentum and confidence after taking the recent matchup, and that current form matters when the teams see each other again so quickly. It is never easy to beat the same opponent twice in short order, everyone knows that, but the Rockets clearly believe their style works in this matchup, and they have the recent evidence to back that up. There is also the quiet possibility that the Clippers decide to manage Leonard's minutes or even give him the night off, with this being the second leg of a back-to-back, and that alone casts a shadow over their reliability in this spot. Even if he suits up, the thought of reduced burst or limited minutes hangs over any argument that leans heavily on the road side. When you put all of that together, the Rockets' current form, home comfort, and matchup confidence tilt the spread conversation in their favor, especially against a Clippers group that may be juggling fatigue and rotation questions. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Rockets to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Los Angeles Clippers are averaging 112.4 points on 47.9% shooting and allowing 112.7 points on 46.6% shooting. They are hitting 36.7% from three-point range and 83.5% at the free throw line, while allowing 36.6% shooting from deep and pulling down 40.7 rebounds per game. The Houston Rockets are averaging 115.2 points on 47.2% shooting and allowing 110 points on 45.9% shooting. They are shooting 36.8% from beyond the arc and 75.3% from the stripe, while holding opponents to 35% from three and grabbing a hefty 48.8 rebounds per game. Those numbers show two offenses that are fairly efficient from the field, especially inside the arc, and both teams are comfortable shooting from deep, which naturally raises the ceiling on total points. The free throw profile matters too, because the Clippers are very strong at the line, and that can keep points piling up even when the defense tightens and the game turns more physical. Rebounding stands out strongly on the Houston side, and that edge usually means extra possessions, more second chance looks, and more quick outlets that lead to fast break or early offense opportunities. In a game where both teams already average solid scoring outputs, those bonus chances can be the difference between a modest total and something that pushes well into the higher range. The defensive numbers are not weak, but they are not suffocating either, and with both groups familiar with each other from the recent matchup, the adjustments often favor the offenses finding their spots more cleanly. Back-to-back situations can also tilt things slightly toward offense, with tired legs showing up more on closeouts and rotations than on jump shots taken in rhythm. Taking the full picture into account, the ingredients point toward a contest where both sides put up healthy numbers, and the flow leans toward a higher scoring outcome rather than a grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.